Okay, I'm just going to talk about the David Price vs Tony Thompson fight. First and foremost, before I go into this video, breaking news that the promoter, or sorry, the manager and promoter of David Price, Frank Maloney, has been rushed to hospital. He's had a history of heart problems in the past, and just hope that Frank Maloney is well and in good condition and a speedy recovery. Secondly, this video won't be about myself being a know-it-all or being a jumping on a guy who's just been knocked out. Um, Full credit to Tony Thompson. He came over here. I can't say to you, yeah, I knew this was going to happen, because I expected as soon as David Price hit Thompson on the chin, Thompson was going to go over. He looked, for me, I thought he was out of shape when he came over. You know, he came over, I think, less than a week before the fight. So I think to myself, he wasn't acclimatized. Normally, if a guy is serious about fighting, he's normally over here 2 weeks. But Thompson obviously felt he had enough in the tank to deal with David Price. And I predicted, as I said, that David Price would hit Thompson. Thompson would go over, because I didn't think Thompson would be brave enough to come forward against David Price. Boy, was I wrong. But I've said it before, and I've said it again, and I'll keep on saying it. When you're knocking people over, that's fine. That looks great. And boxing fans are very excitable. Not the knowledgeable ones, just the ones that see a guy going over, see a guy punch a guy and fall over, think, right, he's done that, so then he's a great fighter. No, you have to fight. If you're doing it against guys that are punching you back and are known world-class operators, and you're doing that to them, then we can say fine. But if you're doing it against guys you're expected to knock over and not bringing up a challenge, A, what are you learning from that experience? And B, you're supposed to be doing that anyway. On paper, Tony Thompson was meant to get blown away by David Price, by the media. My concern was always about David Price's chin, and regardless who tells you about he got hit on his neck, he got hit on his shoulder, it didn't hit him on the chin, you don't have to look any further than to go back to the amateur days to see what happens when David Price gets hit on the chin. So I've always been saying this. It's not something new I've been saying. And as to this point, we really didn't see what happens when David Price gets hit on the chin. If you go back on my video, I got destroyed for doing a video of comparing Audley Harrison to Cameron Ellie. And let's be honest, David Price caught Audley before he could do anything. Had Audley landed one of those left hands on David Price's chin, we might not even be talking about the Tony Thompson fight now. So up to this point, David Price had things all his own way, fighting at home, knocking guys over, fights going early. Now he's fought a guy. When Tony Thompson took his first right hand, for me, psychologically, to a fighter that's been knocking everybody over, that's got to have some sort of effect. Now he hit Thompson with the same shots they hit Audley with, and he hit Matt Skelton with, but Thompson was still there. And even when Thompson got hit with a good shot, Thompson was able to hold Price, push him off, and keep boxing. At no point in time did Tony Thompson look like he was going to hit the deck. And this is also a worrying factor. And I'll say why it's a worrying factor, because they're talking about an automatic rematch. Now, if you're going to have an automatic rematch, what is David Price going to do differently to what he did this time? Oh, well, he'll box at distance. Well, he might be able to box at distance. But there's two questions I need to answer here. Question number one is, and I did ask this question as well on the Twitter forums, what happens if Thompson lands a punch on Price's chin? What happens? We now know, or 90% of us know, that if Price gets hit on the chin by Thompson again, he'll go over again. And to those people who will say, well, he got punched on the neck. Well, could you imagine that punch him on the chin? If he punched him on his neck and it had that effect, what's going to happen if Thompson hit him on the chin? So we now know that Price hasn't got the power to blow Thompson out in the first round or the first couple of rounds, because we see now that's not going to happen. So Price will have to box to beat Thompson. Thompson knows he's knocked Price out once. And it wasn't a lucky shot. That was not a lucky punch. I don't believe there's such thing as a lucky punch in boxing. When you go in the ring to fight someone, the aim is for you to hit and not get hit. It's not a lucky punch. So anybody who tells you that this punch was a lucky punch don't know anything about boxing. It's not about lucky. There's nothing lucky about it. Thompson was in there. He had two hands. He's a boxer. He's got a professional career. He's knocked people out before. And he's been knocked out. What's lucky about that? He trained for a fight. He trained to win a fight. Nothing lucky about it. There's no pot luck here. It happened. He hit him on the chin. Price went over. Another point I'd like to make. The comparisons between David Price and Lennox Lewis. I want to stop even the commentators. And I'm going to mention Steve Bunce as one of these commentators. Bunce, you need to stop leading fans up the garden path. You know as well as I do, Lennox Lewis was WBC champion when he got knocked out by Oliver McCall. And the second time he got knocked out was by Hasim Rahman. Okay? The first fight, you could say was technical. Okay, he got knocked out because it's technical. The second fight, Lennox didn't come into the fight in the sort of shape that we come to know Lennox, and he was also distracted because he was on Ocean's 11. He was the undisputed champion the second time round. And then when Lennox got himself back in shape, he turned around and he knocked Hasim Rahman out clean. Okay? So, Lennox Lewis and David Price. David Price is British Commonwealth champion, sure. And Lennox Lewis was a world champion. He had already proven he was good enough to be a world champion. He destroyed Razor Ruddock. He'd beaten Gary Mason. Okay? He'd knocked out Mike Weaver. He'd beaten Tyrell Biggs. You know, and even on his comeback trail, he fought Tommy Morrison. So, the comparison between David Price and Lennox Lewis should not even be made. I can't even believe the comparisons are being made. One's got knocked out as world champion. Even a comparison between Vladimir Klitschko and David Price. I think he got knocked out by Ross Pruitt. I don't know if he was champion with Ross Pruitt, but certainly the second time round that Klitschko got knocked out, he got knocked out, and I believe Lamont Brewster knocked him out, and even then he was world champion. And since then, Klitschko has made significant changes to his game. Now, if Price has got a weak chin, which I suspect he does have, he's going to have to formulate some sort of strategy or some sort of boxing style, much like the Klitschko, safety first. He won't be able to go gung-ho in there and trying to take people out. So Price's style may not be as exciting anymore because that's happened. The other thing people have to consider is this. I hate to say this. I recently did an interview with Franny Smith, and I asked Franny Smith in the interview, no word of a lie, I asked him, what is David Price's punch resistance? I kept asking the question, and he said to me, and these are his words, not mine. Franny Smith said that David Price got hit on the chin by David Haye with the sort of punch that would stop a horse. Well, from the evidence I saw tonight, by the punch that Tony Thompson dropped Price with, and even when Price got up, he was in no fit condition to continue. You have to wonder whether Franny Smith was, I don't know what he was telling me, but it's very hard now to believe what he said. I'm not trying to be funny. Again, this is why I do the interviews, to find out what a trainer has to say. And I saw the amateur evidence. And people say, oh, well, Price was a young guy. Price was quite much older in his amateur fights than Tyson Fury was. And a lot of people talk about Tyson Fury, but I'll say it again. Tyson is up, he's been down, he's been in tough fights. You know Tyson's been in a tough fight. The first time Price has got hit the chin, he's gone over. So when I made the comparisons of David Price and Tyson Fury and said this fight could possibly be a mismatch, you've got one guy who doesn't care about pressure. He'll take the fight to you. He doesn't mind if a guy takes the fight to him. And you've got another guy who's good at giving it, but we're not sure if he's good at taking it. So the other thing is David Price, his style. Is he able to handle pressure mentally? Is he the type of guy that when pressure's put on him, he falls to pieces? We don't know. There's still these questions need to be answered. Can he come back? Yeah, sure he can come back. Of course David Price can come back. But who's he going to come back against? He can't come back against a guy who's going to blow over in a couple of rounds. He's going to have to get back in there against somebody who's just as dangerous as Tony Thompson. So, I don't know. My suggestion? Could fight Audley Harrison again. You laugh. Audley Harrison has just won the prize fighter. And Audley wants the rematch. He wants to prove that it wasn't a fluke. Audley's just had a very good performance in the prize fighter. Price is making a comeback. It'd be a good fight for Price. I know he's done it before, knocked him out in a round. Was it a fluke now? Don't think it was. But Audley looks in good shape. If Audley and Price want to fight, what about that? And then you've got the Derek Chisora fight. If Doughboy gets himself into good shape and fights Price and gets inside of Price, do you really think Price is going to take what Doughboy's going to throw at him? Because Doughboy's not going to stand there and let him hit him, is he? Don't know. It's going to be some interesting times. Very interesting times. And Frank Maloney, another question. I mean, it's not the first time that Frank's had problems with heart problems. I just hope that he recovers well. But in the interest of him and his family, it's getting pretty stressful for Frank. What's going to happen there? My suggestion to David Price would be to get himself over to the States. This is the perfect time to get over to the States, to cut all the hype out, go to America and learn his trade. Get an experienced trainer, I think an American trainer like James Ali Bashir, who's been in the corner. He's got 40 years experience. He's trained many world champions. He's in the Klitschko corner. I think David Price would be advised. It'd be advisable for David Price to do something like that. But let me know what you think. I could be talking a whole lot of rubbish here. So anyway, just thought I'd give you my views and my thoughts on the Price defeat. It's going to be a long way back for David Price. But he has got the power to do damage.